6 years passed. Kelechi grew into the kind of child that made strangers smile on the street. From the outside, they were whole. They were healed. But somewhere in Lagos, a man was watching and counting. He had been watching for months, not out of love, out of calculation. Because for a man like Emeka, a child was not a miracle. He was leverage. It had started 6 years earlier at a company dinner. A loose-tongued colleague. A secret that was never meant to leave that room. Chinedu can never father a child. The doctor said so. I was there. He went cold. Then he smiled. And in that smile, a plan was born that neither Amara nor Chinedu would see coming. He needed proof before he could act. So he got it the only way he knew how. Quietly, carefully, without leaving a trace. The result came back 14 days later. 99.98%. The boy was his. And now, he wanted him. It arrived on a Tuesday morning. No postman, no knock, just an envelope. As if it had always been waiting for her. Inside were 3 photographs, and a note written in calm, deliberate handwriting that made her blood run cold. I know whose son he is. The room didn't spin. It contracted. Everything she had buried, every fragment of that missing night, came flooding back at once. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. She wasn't even sure what she was dealing with. So she did what she had always done when she was terrified. She smiled. 7 days later, another one. He was telling her he was everywhere, that he had been watching all of them, and that she had no idea who she was dealing with. Hello, Amara. 3 words. That was all it took for her to know exactly who it was. A voice she had tried for 6 years to forget. He chose a cafe, in public, where she couldn't scream, where she had to sit across from the man who had destroyed a piece of her life, and listen. Give me my son quietly. Shared custody. No courts, no noise. Or I expose everything. What I know about that night, what I did, and who the boy really belongs to. Chinedu's family will tear you apart. She didn't pick it up. She couldn't. Because picking it up meant this was real. She stood up. She walked out. She left the document on the table. But outside, alone on the street, she broke. He noticed it the way he always did. Not in what she said, but in what she didn't. 11 years of marriage teaches a man his wife's silences. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, he saw it. A black car he didn't recognize, parked where it had no business being. It drove away before he could get close, but Chinedu had already memorized the plate. He didn't tell her. Not yet. If someone was watching his family, he needed to know who before he made a single move. So, he called the only man he trusted with this kind of darkness. Tunde was not a man who asked unnecessary questions. He listened, wrote one thing down, and said 4 words. Give me a week. Tunde moved without noise. He had spent 20 years finding things that people buried. And this one, he could already smell, was deep. The bartender had never forgotten that night. He had seen it happen. He had told himself it wasn't his business. For 6 years, he had lived with that silence. His name was Emeka Ose, senior manager, decorated professional, a man the world believed was charming, generous, and good. He didn't prepare Chinedu. There was no kind way to hand a man the truth about what had happened to his wife. He didn't shout. He didn't throw anything. He pressed one hand to the wall and breathed, because the alternative was destruction. He found her in the kitchen. He sat down, and for the first time, they faced the full truth together. "I believe you," he said. Not, "It's okay," not, "I forgive you," just, "I believe you." And somehow, those 3 words held everything. She called him. Her voice didn't shake. Her answer was 2 letters, and she could feel, in the silence before he hung up, that she had just started a war. He had expected a fight. He had prepared for one, because men like Emeka never made demands they weren't ready to enforce. 3 days after she said no, the car appeared at the school gate. He wanted her to see it. He wanted her to know he could reach her son any time he chose. It lasted 11 seconds, but 11 seconds was long enough to show exactly how serious he was. She told him everything. And this time, the man who always held still finally moved. He didn't call first. He didn't make an appointment. He walked into that building like a man who had decided the conversation was happening today. For the first time, the 2 men were in the same room. 2 men who had loved the same woman, one with devotion, one with predation. "I know what you did that night. I know what you are. And I am telling you directly, clearly, you will never come near my son again." "Your son?" He let the words sit. "We both know that's a complicated claim, Chinedu." He said his name like it was a verdict. Chinedu opened a folder and slid it across the desk. "What you did that night has a legal name, and Tunde found the bartender who watched you do it." The mask slipped, just for a second, but Chinedu saw it, and he knew that was enough. 2 weeks later, he filed a paternity suit. He chose the most public path because he believed exposure was his only remaining weapon. They needed the best, and the best was Barrister Ngozi, a woman who had never lost a case that mattered. The trial came quickly, and with it, everything they had built, everything they had survived, laid bare in a room full of strangers. He played the role perfectly. Wronged father, absent only because he wasn't given the chance. He had rehearsed every word. And then the bartender walked in, and the room went very, very quiet. 6 years of planning, 6 years of patience, and it came apart in 11 minutes of testimony from a man who had simply decided, enough. I don't need a DNA result to tell me who my son is. I was there when he took his first step. I held him through every fever. He calls me daddy. Biology is not fatherhood. She had spent 6 years afraid those words would never be said. And now they were, in a room full of strangers, and they were the most beautiful words she had ever heard. The judge ruled. Emeka Ose, predator, manipulator, criminal, had no claim, not legal, not moral, not in any court that recognized the word fatherhood. He was arrested on the courthouse steps. No drama, no final speech, just consequence. Long overdue. The months that followed were the hardest of their lives. The truth, all of it, had finally been spoken. And truth, even when it sets you free, leaves damage on its way out. Some families are not built by blood. They are built by choice, made over and over, even on the hardest days, even after the worst nights, even when every reason to leave was sitting right there on the table. He stayed. And that was everything. If this story touched your heart, drop a heart in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you're new here, subscribe, because more stories like this are coming.